Look closely at these photos and think, why would anyone make these guns that are difficult to hold even for two grown men? Now take a look. Here historians say that these books, some of which weigh hundreds of pounds, were made as souvenirs and a collector's item. The same thing historians tell us about swords, more than 10 feet long, which even the strongest men can hardly lift. How about doors of this size? Some are over 30 feet high. Did they also build such complex structures just for beauty? But what if historians do not tell us the full truth? And what if not so long ago, giants like this one lived next to us? To this day, many myths, legends, and writings have been preserved about the giants that once lived next to us. In the mythology of the ancient world, all the first civilizations of India, Egypt, China, ancient Greece, and Scandinavia were created by the hands of giants. The Aztecs believed that it was the ancient giants who once built the pyramids. According to clay tablets, the priests of Sumer and Babylon received their knowledge from the giant people who escaped the Great Flood. But if it's true, then how could they disappear without a trace? Let's figure it out. Here are 8 facts for you that giants did exist in the recent past. The first. Giant footprints are found all over the world. For example, here is a photo published by the Chinese news agency Sino. Footprints were found in the southwest of China in Guizhou province, near the village of Penyang. Huge feet imprinted almost completely. Another footprint is smeared in soft rock, in which an imprint was left long ago petrified. These footprints are approximately 2.5 times larger than those of an ordinary human. Apparently, the giant's height must be at least 15 feet to match the size of the footprint. There are also larger traces. The most famous traces were discovered in South Africa by a local farmer at the beginning of the last century. The length of the foot is 1 meter 28 centimeters. Such a mark could have been left by a giant about 30 feet tall. Could it be a clever fake? No, because scientists claim that according to the official chronology, the trail froze more than 100 million years ago when the rock was soft. Second, biblical traditions mention the giants. Remember the biblical story of David and Goliath. It is directly said that Goliath was a descendant of giants. Here are also the reports of the spies sent by Moses to Palestine. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, who come of the giants. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. What kind of size should this giant be so that the person next to him looked like a grasshopper? Approximately 50 meters. Carl Linnaeus, the famous naturalist and creator of the classification system for plants and animals, somehow calculated the height of the first humans, Adam and Eve, 40 and 35 meters. The Quran also talks about giants who were taller than the tallest palm trees. For example, a giant named Uja helped Noah build the ark. An entire tribe of giants is also described. They were considered children, but the shortest of them was approximately 18 meters tall. Third, historical evidence. The famous historian Josephus Flavius of the 1st century AD did not doubt the existence of giants and left this description. There were till then left the race of giants, who had bodies so large and countenances so entirely different from other men, that they were surprising to the sight and terrible to the hearing. Pausanias, who lived in the 2nd century, says that a well-preserved human skeleton more than 5 meters tall was discovered in Syria. Fourth, giant objects. You can find an impressive number of giant guns and swords. This is probably because historians have come up with what they consider a reasonable explanation. The swords were allegedly made for ritual purposes. Just look at this photo taken in one of the European museums next to the giant swords. Right below in comparison are swords of Japan and China. The same story applies to swords of human height and taller. And here we see a team of 3 people holding a huge gun. Do you think it is practical to shoot with such a gun? The existence of giant books sometimes as tall as a man is also explained by ritual purposes. Okay, then why are they written in such a huge font? There are many such books in the Vatican Library. These doors were supposedly made so high that people could carry banners and flags through the door. And this is despite the fact that in a cold climate, big doors mean serious heat loss. The fifth list of the Smithsonian Institution and evidence from archaeologists. You probably never heard about the huge scandal surrounding the Smithsonian Institution, which admitted to destroying 1,000 giant human skeletons in the early 1900s. The U.S. Supreme Court has ordered the release of classified documents to a medical institute proving that tens of thousands of giant human skeletons have been found throughout America. But they were destroyed to protect the official chronology of human evolution. During the trial, according to James Churchward, a spokesman for the American Institute of Alternative Archaeology. Later, new details emerged confirming the fact of destruction. The court was shown a human femur bone, size of 1 meter 30 centimeters long, which was stolen by one of the curators of the institute, and therefore saved from destruction. Here are just a few mysterious finds of the last century, confirmed by archaeologists. In 1899, miners in the Ruhr region of Germany discovered skeletal fossils of people measuring between 2.5 and 2.4 meters tall. In 1890, in Egypt, archaeologists found a stone sarcophagus containing a 2-meter-long mummy, a red-haired woman. The facial features and build of the mummy were different from the ancient Egyptians. Similar mummies of both men and women with red hair were discovered in 1912 in Lovelock, Nevada in a cave carved out in the rock. The researchers found that the height of the mummified woman during her life was approximately 2 meters tall, and the man was about 3 meters tall. In the Oxford University Library in the book History and Antiquity, there is a documentary report of the discovery of a giant skeleton made in Cumberland, England. The giant is buried 4 yards deep in the ground and is in full military uniform. His sword and battle axe were found next to him. The length of the skeleton was 4.5 yards. Later discoveries made in 1936 by German paleontologist and anthropologist Lars and Cole found the skeletons of giant people in Central Africa. 12 men were buried in one large mass grave. During their lifetime, their height ranged from 3.5 to 3.75 meters tall. During World War II, fossils of a skull 55 centimeters were discovered in Poland. This is 3 times larger than that of a modern adult. According to calculations, the giant's height should have been at least 3.5 meters. A 58-centimeter skull was discovered in Alaska, said renowned biologist Ivan T. Sanderson. Here is some very recent information. In 2011, during a scientific expedition, material was collected about the giants that once inhabited some regions of Armenia. Arslan Ovsepian, director of the Gosovank Historical Complex, said that in 1996, when building the roads through the mountains, bones were found. When a single bone was put next to a person, it would reach to shoulder's height. Pavel Avestasian, director of the Institute of Archaeology, claims that in the region of Gyumri near the Black Fortress huge skulls and even entire skeletons from the ancient period were discovered. I was simply taken aback, because the thumb of such a person would be thicker than my hand. I myself participated in excavations and often came across the remains of people who were much bigger than me. 6th. Sculpture and bas-reliefs. Now let's look at the famous Egyptian bas-reliefs, sculptures, and drawings. Here are the figures of giants, and next to them the normal-sized human. We were told that these are the ancient Egyptian images of gods, but they could also be a depiction of giants. 7th. The very fact of the existence of giant dinosaurs in ancient times does not surprise anyone for some reason. It must be said that back then the biosphere encouraged gigantism in organisms. Researchers measured the pressure in air bubbles in amber, it turned out to be 8 atmospheres, and the oxygen content was 38%. That's why the dinosaurs were so huge. Why wouldn't historians confirm the existence of giants? Because then we will have to admit that the history of mankind does not fit into the narrow time frame allotted to it by official historians. 8th. Some modern men are abnormally tall. There were quite a lot of them, and they continue to exist today. For example, Fyodor Makhnov still remains the tallest man in the world. His height was 285 centimeters. Photos of this giant have been preserved. And by the way, unlike many other tall people on the planet, Fyodor's growth was not caused by a genetic or endocrine disease. He was a completely healthy and well-proportioned man. Looking at these photos, it's hard not to believe in the existence of ancient giants. There are still a lot of blank spots in modern science. Some of them are the results of imperfect research methods. But some information is deliberately hidden from us. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video. And if the video was useful for you, subscribe and share the video with your friends to help the channel grow.